Recognize Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to each of you. 63% and upward 70 in certain areas. So I have the great honor and pleasure of representing residents in the city of Philadelphia who live in these neighborhoods. They are in Mount Airy, Cedar Brook, depending on what you call it, whether or not there's a shooting or not, West Oak Lane, East Oak Lane, Alany, Logan, Longcrest, Lawndale, Oxford Circle, and Burholme. We have a high rate of home ownership in that district. The city's home ownership rate is 52%. The 9th Councilmatic District's home ownership rate is 63%. And depending on which region in the 9th Councilmatic District you go, some neighborhoods have upwards to a 74 to 80% home ownership rate. Now, I want to, because this is very important to me, just to make sure this is on the record, because this is from your data. The 9th Councilmatic District has the 3rd fewest number of delinquent property tax accounts in all districts in the city of Philadelphia. Okay? Not rich, right? But the 3rd fewest delinquent accounts. In addition to that, we are number 1. Did you hear me? Number 1 when it comes to homeowners who enter into payment agreements with the city of Philadelphia when we know, because we're not rich, that we can't afford to make the total payment by the deadline. We are the number 1 constituency, my people, who say, city, I want to enter into a payment plan. It's with that in mind that I want you to know I was through the roof when my office received a copy of a letter that was sent by one of our constituents who apparently was in some kind of pilot about the collection of delinquent property taxes and or foreclosures. And when we received it, I'll be very honest, I said, well, wait. I work very closely with revenue. I met with you, Commissioner. I met with your team, my team. We're on the phone. We call. We're not shock jocks. We don't wait to have an issue and send it to the press to get a headline. That's not how we function. We have a challenge. We call you. How in the world could anybody develop a pilot program for the collection of delinquent property taxes in any neighborhood in the 9th Councilmatic District that is number 1 in making payment arrangements with the city of Philadelphia and has the 3rd fewest delinquent accounts in the city of Philadelphia, and then don't even have the courtesy to come to the council person? Because when anything goes down in that district from a city perspective, that's my tale. They expect me to know. And I had to say to my constituent, 2 of them, I don't know what you're talking about. Tell me how. Tell me when. Tell me why didn't I know. Tell me who received these letters. And tell me, was the 9th Councilmatic District the only district in the city? I think those are fair questions. And I'm going to be quiet and listen.
Well, let me first apologize for that and say that that was clearly an oversight on our part, and that should not have happened, and we apologize for that. We also acknowledged all the work that we have done, and we're very, very grateful for the cooperation and the partnership that we've had with your office. And also let me say that the numbers that you have quoted are correct, that you do have the 3rd lowest in the number of delinquent accounts and also the highest number of delinquent accounts in payment agreements, and we applaud that, and that's certainly a reflection of the efforts from your office. The specific questions I'm going to allow Marissa to answer. She's more familiar with the program, but I wanted to go on the record and make sure that it's a lesson learned for my behalf, and we'll take the hit there, and I certainly apologize for that.
Thank you. I echo the Commissioner's apologies. We absolutely should have engaged you much, much earlier in this process. And as you may know, the tax man is not normally who folks love to hear from. And so over the past year, we've been exploring a lot of different ways to try and get that message out and find as many different partners and organizations and community groups who can help us share the information about the really valuable assistance programs and the owner-occupied payment agreement program that so many folks in your district have already found really valuable. And so one of the things we've been looking at is how can other people get that message out? And so the information about who is delinquent and whether or not they've got a homestead exemption is public information. So there's no legal barrier to sharing that information. And so what we wound up doing is providing that information to a state representative so that they could reach out and try and help folks get into that program, that maybe folks would be more comfortable talking to someone who wasn't the Department of Revenue about how to take advantage of this program. And so we absolutely agree that, we should involve the council members at every step in this, that you guys are really the champions who get this done. We've done wonderful events in your district. I think we actually have done the most community outreach events in the past year. Of the 174 we did, I think the highest number might have been in the 9th district. And so we really value these community partnerships, the folks who know these neighborhoods better than us and are better connected. And so we really apologize that in this instance we didn't go about it the right way. And it was about 161 taxpayers or homeowners who had fallen behind that we provided information about so that the state representative could reach out to them.
Commissioner, I respect you, and I appreciate your just acknowledging that moving forward, we're going to do this another way. But I want to say this to you on a record, and I want to be clear. We're talking about 161 residents who have fallen behind in preservation of their own home and paying their property taxes. Before we have any coordinated efforts with any nonprofits, any elected officials, or any other willing do-gooders who all of a sudden become vested in making sure that Philadelphians are paying their fair share, they need to be in contact with the district council person. And was the 9th district the only district that this occurred in? Because I want to know, why was my district targeted? If I have the #1 constituency that's in payment agreements and the 3rd fewest delinquent accounts in the city, why was my district targeted?
We also worked with State Senator Vincent Hughes, who was doing similar work to reach out to folks and try and engage them, who we'd also been engaged with through the Earned Income Tax Credit Program.
I appreciate you acknowledging that, and let me just say this. I had the great honor and privilege of serving for 10 years in the Pennsylvania House. 5 of those years, the interesting opportunity to serve as chair of the delegation, work with my colleague, Councilman Alan Dom, in that capacity on a bill that gave the city of Philadelphia additional powers for the collection of delinquent property taxes. So I was vested in revenue's work long before I arrived. And the bill was not only just for Philadelphia, but for the first time when people saw this power that was much needed about to be bestowed on the city of Philadelphia, can you believe that the rest of the state said, wait, this should be statewide? Every other county should have the ability to do this. Please don't ever, for my people, I don't think a district council person would feel different, but I mean for the 9th councilmatic district, I can only speak for me. Don't do that to my people. If you partner with a nonprofit, you tell me, because I have a slew of community-based activities, and I work with state reps, I work with state senators, I work with federal officials, I work with nonprofits. We work together, but it is not together when I don't know, and I'm lambasted with this. Mr. Chairman, I did ask the president just to give me a little leeway before we started, because I do have to leave. The next line of questioning that I have is I want to stay on the issue of the collection of delinquent property taxes. And I want to ask you, in terms of those properties, one, those firms that are hired to collect for us, do we collect data on their collection rates and how effective they are, so we can know whether or not we're getting a return on our investment? And is that included and I just didn't look at it? in the data that you shared with us today?
We do collect that information. We're always analyzing our collection agencies to see their performance. It is not included in that information that you have, but we can certainly share collection information with you.
So what I would like to have sent to the President for distribution to all members is, I want to see the performance of those firms that are hired by the City of Philadelphia to collect both residential and commercial tax liens, right? Residential and commercial. In addition to that, tell me the trigger, because this is something I haven't understood. What's the trigger for when an account is sent over to one of those firms? Is it a certain amount that you become delinquent in? Is it a length of time that you become delinquent in? And right now, is every residential and commercial account that we should be collecting on, have we sent those to those firms that are doing the business to collect? Because this is what happened. I'm in Alany and East Oak Lane this past Saturday, and we're going through the budget proposal, and we're talking about what we need to fund the schools, and we're talking about a proposed increase in property taxes, and the folks say, wait a minute, Cherelle, are we maxing out on our ability to collect the delinquent property taxes? So I go through the spiel about the legislation. I talk about what, the great job that I think you all are doing. I didn't have the data to confirm whether or not the firms who are working to collect for us, how successful they've been. But then the billion-dollar question is, well, Cherelle, has the city sent those firms all of the accounts and given them the opportunity to collect so that we can measure what they are? And I couldn't answer that question. Tell me, what do I say when I go back?
So everything that's delinquent is in a collection status.
Everything?
Yes.
Commercial and residential?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, it's not all with firms, because we keep some internal for our law department to do collections on. So basically,
go right there, Commish. Internal for law department. Help me understand what's the trigger for what delinquent residential and commercial accounts are given to those firms who we hire to do that work, and then what's the rationale or trigger or methodology for keeping them in-house to let the law department collect?
well, first of all, there's I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but there's a different collection rate internally, and this gets passed along to the homeowner. So our internal attorney's fee is 6%.
6%. Internal fee.
Internal fee. Our two co-counsel's rate is 18%.
18%.
Which gets passed along. So what we basically do is take the accounts that we think are essentially the easiest collection, and we keep those in-house, and we work those. The ones that are going to take the more significant effort are divided equally between the two vendors. So it's as simple as that. You know, law department takes their piece, what's left gets divided in half and goes out to the two vendors.
So one, now let me thank you for just answering the complex question in plain English, right? So I appreciate that, but this is what I'm going to ask, and Mr. Chairman, I'll be done. I get the internal rate at 6%, the 18% fee that is charged by these firms. My question, and that the easier accounts are given where we can pay the lower amount, the 6%, right? We try to do it in-house because it should be easier to collect. What I would like to see is, can we measure the effectiveness and or the success of, and the time period? Because if we're talking about, let's just say if there was an additional 200, 250, 300 million out there in delinquent accounts that we could be getting that money in, let's say within the next 12 to 24 months, that we could have on our books, that amount of money that we need to help address this school district crisis that we have right now. Not that it goes away, but it is significantly. We started at 966. What's the number now? 674? 670? 660, 670, right? So now we move down. Imagine if you can I don't care if it's via internally or externally, we measure how fast we would be able to collect that revenue, we could decrease that amount. Right?
And that's something we're looking at. We're always looking at the collection rate of our vendors and our internal collection rate to maximize that. In addition, starting about 5 years ago, we started a new process where the real estate taxes are due March 31st, and effective April 1st, they're overdue. They're not yet delinquent. They don't become delinquent until the beginning of the next year, but they're overdue. They used to sit until they became delinquent and then go out and go through the process we just talked about. Now, as soon as they become overdue, we send those out, not to law firms, but to collection agencies. And they'll start getting noticing during the year, and that noticing ramps up until about November. And when in November, we send them all essentially a final letter that says, if you don't pay before December 31st, bad things are going to happen in terms of, there's going to be a lien on your house, you're going to get legal fees, and that's been really effective. So we're kind of on board with what we're saying. We're trying to jump on them as soon as they're overdue, get them out to collectors, start the process. So we're starting the process much earlier than we used to. We're keeping it with those collectors. We have 2 collectors doing that portfolio. We measure both of those. We make it competitive. We let them know if one's outperforming the other. We let them know where they should be. That's been very effective for us. Over the last 5 years, the total principal has been reduced by 31%, and the number of delinquent accounts has been reduced by over 20%. Our collection rate in the year of the levy is at a new high, 95.5%, and we're trending higher in the current year. So we're really excited about that. So I think, we have a strategy. We've been utilizing it over the last several years. It's really paying its dividends, and I think that we are maximizing our collection.
So Commissioner, thank you for your response. I support your efforts, particularly that anything that we can collect, and we can collect it 12% lower than the private sector can do it, I want to do it. But I also understand the importance of the timeliness of it. So if there is an additional $250 to $300 million, I would love to see a cost-benefit analysis of how long it would take us to collect it and how much it would cost at 6% versus what it would cost if we did it outside. And then that would help us understand how we communicate with our constituency about that. Because again, just think of the number. We moved from 966 down to 650, and we're still talking about a potential 4.1% increase. And folks are asking questions about it. My people are. I can't speak for any other district. My people. In addition to that, this council is going to be asked to make the tough decision about whatever the package will look like. So if you could, Commissioner, send that information to us, then you give me the data that I need to go out and make the case for what I feel like the city's plan should be. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Council